right, just a couple things. Let me put this full screen. All right, so for class, we're going to be looking at behind the scenes for software programming. We've already talked about programming briefly, and one of the Intel panel that you had the opportunity to listen to, if you were able to tune into that, talked a little bit about software programming, not a lot, but this just dives in a little bit deeper about that. And then so just a couple, I guess, notes. I did go in, I think I've gotten all the assignments updated with the correct due dates now, and all the modules updated. And I went ahead and turned all the modules on so you can see exactly what we have remaining for the rest of the semester. And if you need to work ahead or anything, you can. But that way it's all laid out. And like I said, I think it's all updated. It's like when you're doing all that, it's easy to miss, but I did double check. I did not triple check. So I could have still missed something, but I think it's there. So I did not get the assessments updated or graded because I was really trying to get all the assignment and the modules updated so you knew exactly what was remaining. So I'll get those done this week, I hope, in the Canvas course. Just to share this with you in case you didn't see the announcements, there is a scholarship opportunity that is due, if I remember correctly, it's due the 15th, April 15th. So if you're just seeing this now, you may not even have time to submit anything, but it is a scholarship opportunity that is worth up to $3,395 to help pay for tuition. I put some information there, so if you're interested, I also saw Chandler Gilbert sent out a mass email today. I think it went to all students about this opportunity too. So if you're interested, the one thing with scholarships, if you don't really know, a lot of people don't put in, a lot of people don't apply. They don't put, because like with this one, you have to write a 200-word essay. And I'm right there with y'all, probably most of y'all. I don't really like to write 200-word essays. I mean, if it's going to get me $3,000, I'll do it, right? But the average person will see 200-word essay, and unless they really, really like to write, they're like, oh, forget that, I'm not doing that. So many times these scholarships are available because not too many people apply. So keep that in mind. If you are able to make time, it's worth putting one in. And then the other, so this one doesn't apply to Chandler Gilbert, but if you happen to know or have a younger sibling that actually lives in Mesa, they are doing free tuition for 2 years to Mesa Community College. They do have to be eligible, and you do have to file for financial aid, and then they'll cover what's left. So that's an opportunity if you know anyone lives, they're graduating from a Mesa high school and they live in Mesa, there's an opportunity to get free tuition for 2 years. So share that and help out some peers or siblings if you know of anybody. Okay. We do have an Excel project coming up next week. Let me just slide this back over real quick. And I'll go into more detail about that. But if you see it in Canvas, don't worry about it. We're not going to have, I think next week's, I think I have my weeks right. Next week, you don't have any simulations and you'll just focus on that project. But if you want to get a little bit of a head start, you can go in and read about it. I still need to add examples, and let me drop myself a note. I'll add some examples from fall semester for you. So that will help you out and give you an idea of what to create. And the whole goal of that project is to help you do a little bit of a research around the job that you're thinking about or aiming for, and then the where you might live. So I hope it's something useful that helps you out as far as your career and what you're hoping to do. And one last final thing. So we talk about, I try to pull in current technology when I can. And this is something I've discovered and I actually ordered already. So I know the mask has been lifted. Some people are still requiring masks. And I went ahead and got one because if the masks come back where we're constantly having to wear them, You want a mask that actually works, right? So the current mask, many of them are, it's an attempt at just trying to block stuff from you breathing it or you breathing it out. Well, these are masks that they're a little bit expensive. They're not, well, it depends. If you buy a cheap mask, then they're these are more expensive. But if you kind of buy a stylish mask or, you know, something a little different, you pay a little bit more. These aren't a whole lot more if you get the simple one. But with the mask, these actually have copper in them, and copper is antiviral. So it's a mask that will actually kill the viruses. So it's not just trying to filter stuff out. It will actually kill a lot of what's coming into the mask. And I'm trying to think, I forget the data. I looked at this. Does it tell us here? I can't remember. No, it's just saying, now, when you get them and you wear them, you do feel like you're breathing pennies. Okay, it's copper. It's actually real copper. So you're going to have that copper smell to them, which can be a little bit annoying if you're not used to it. But the thing I think about, if I'm going to be on an airplane, which I will be in a few weeks, then, you know, at least this will help try to kill anything I might be breathing in. They do have different masks, but I went with this, the cheaper one, because I bought one for the whole family in case we need them. And let me put that into the link. So if anyone's interested. Okay. But I thought some of you guys that might be working somewhere where you actually need, you know, a mask that works, or a mask that's antiviral and actually helps try to kill some of the stuff that you might be breathing in, then you might want to check this out. They do have, I think they have some that are combined copper and silver, because if you can get one that's copper and silver together, that's even better. That's even a better combination. But yeah, anyways, so that's just a technology I wanted to share with you. It's not a computer, but it's still technology that can help us out. All right, let me get into our presentation. I think that's it. Does anybody have any questions before we start into the actual lesson? No questions? Okay. Well, let's hop into this and get started, because the sooner we get started, the sooner we can get finished. All right, so we're looking at both software developers and users. We're going to look at the system development cycle and the program development cycle. I do have some career information for you this week too. There was actually more out there than I realized. We're gonna go through how to construct a problem statement for a description of task, and use flow and control design algorithms. We're even going to try our hand at developing an algorithm, and it's around food because that seems to be always of interest and gets people involved. Let's see, categories of programming languages. So we will look at different programming languages. Debugging in program development, what that looks like, testing and documentation. That's always important if you're working with a team, and if it's a program you're going to be passing on. It's always terrible when people develop stuff and then they leave the company, right? Discuss the driving factors behind the popularity of some of the languages. Let's see, considerations in identifying an appropriate programming language for a specific setting. Compare and contrast modern programming languages and look at the key principles in the development of future programming languages. So understanding programming, there's a lot of tasks that are complex, and a lot of you guys know that. You work and you have a home, you run a family. So there's some tasks that are very complex. They require creative thought. They require human touch. But then some tasks are actually can be automated, and it's stuff that's repetitive. It's not necessarily things that people like to do. There is a clear series of steps that need to be taken. So those are things that you want to look to automate. I really want to automate house cleaning. I like cooking the meals, but I don't like doing it every day. It's like, what are some tasks at home you guys would like to automate? It's like, I know the house cleaning, my little boys keep talking about developing a robot that will just clean the house for us. I'm like, that's fine, develop it. I'm all for it. It's like, what supplies do you need? Any other task you guys can think of at home you'd like to see automated? Maybe laundry. And see, that is repetitive. And as long as you could get a robotic, yeah, just some type of a robot, you could definitely get that taken care of. All right, nobody's sharing what type of task they'd like to have automated. We have had like, well, it's not automated, but you know, garage doors. You do have stuff in your homes as far as other systems. Yes, laundry. Someone mentioned laundry. I agree. Definitely. I told my 11-year-old he had to start doing his laundry. So you guys, I'm sure you know how that went. It's like, mommy can't do it all. I need help. Okay, so typically we have Seema. She comes in and does a talk for us, but I'm going to exit out of this and give you the link here that I've put into the PowerPoint. All right, putting a link in text. So she typically comes into our class and speak, but she was part of the Intel panel that did the thing back last month. So I didn't want to ask her to do it twice, but just as a follow-up with her, I did put a link into the window, and let me see. Yep, it'll come up. Maybe. Actually, hang on, let me get it. It didn't copy. It sent you the same one I just sent you for the mask. Why will it not copy? All right, hang on a second. I was doing the keyboard shortcut, but it kept copying. Well, it wasn't copying was the problem. All right. Okay, so with the link, this is what you should be seeing. This is an article that I found about Seema. She didn't even share it with me. I found it. And it goes into a lot. She does a lot of creative stuff outside of her programming, but in this article, she talks a little bit about how, you know, they complement one another, because she's into acting and dancing, I think it is. Yes. She's done a lot with speaking or kind of DJing. Is DJing the right word? DJing, like not DJing, but facilitating events, live events, big events. I know she had one event in California with 2,000 people that she, MC, there's my word. She MC'd for them. So if you want, you can just kind of scroll down through and just skim it for information that sounds interesting. She does have a podcast, Instagram. I have not looked at her website. I don't know anything. She's done a little bit with fashion. So it's just kind of interesting that she's a software engineer for Intel, but she also has this other life. Her podcast is called Sushi with Seema. And it's really just about life. It's not about sushi. Just in case there's some sushi lovers and you get excited, it's actually kind of just general topics in life, and she interviews people. It's fun and interesting. But the good thing is to know that with software engineers, it doesn't have to be your whole entire life. You can still have, you know, work-life balance, but it is a very well paid, it's a very well-paid career that can enable you and give you choices in life. So if you want, just follow up on that. Did anybody listen to the Intel industry and have anything they want to share as far as what they spoke about in the panel? I think we only had like 1 or 2 people from our class. Nobody? Okay. All right, let me get back to the PowerPoint then. But just look that over. like I said, it's just kind of interesting to see what all you can get into and what being a software engineer can enable you to do outside of work too. I think I shared this when we talked about programming originally, but the average salary in Phoenix for programming is $94,911. Now that's not the highest. So you could start out at 58, you could make as much as 138. I don't know about other companies in Phoenix. I know with Intel, my husband works close to the chip. So he's actually in manufacturing of the plants that make the chips. And with that, they get, I think he said last time I heard 9 bonuses or something crazy like that. So when you look at these salaries, that's just the base salary. That doesn't include all the stock options, the bonuses. I know Intel does bonuses. I don't know about other companies. I should probably, I don't know. I don't know if they always share that, right? I should do some research and find out what other companies are doing as far as incentives. And then we know Intel too will pay, if you were at the Intel industry panel, that they do pay for a degree. It used to be around $50,000 that they would actually pay for a degree. So that's another thing. If you're wanting to get help for tuition, you know, get a certificate, get some basic skills, get into a company that then may help pay, or you can get your bachelor's or associates and then use the company money to actually get, you know, either a bachelor's, a master's, PhD, whatever. Just know there's opportunities out there for that. Okay, so looking at the life cycle of an information system and the importance of programming there. So I think this we already know. There's plenty of jobs. If you go to that Zip Recruiter, I was shocked yesterday. You'll see some data on salaries and jobs later on the presentation. But as I was searching for it, I was really shocked at how many jobs there are in this area. Like, you know, there's a lot, right? And we're always told there's a lot. But when I saw the numbers, because the one specific area I was looking at was like 1,500,000 jobs or something crazy like that. And it was saying there was like about 150,000 within Arizona. It's like, wow. So just there are plenty, you cannot go wrong by learning programming. I've used programming as a teacher. I don't use it a lot, but it's nice to have the skills to be able to read code and then know to manipulate some of the code or be able to even sit down and code if you have to. So programming is necessary when there's no existing software for the task, and macros can execute a complicated sequence of steps within a single command. So macros, you're kind of looking at a little bit with our simulations. We don't get into a lot, but it's really something that can speed up processes. And I think even our own Maricopa employees could use that. Somebody could, actually, we could use a full-time person to set up the macros for our staff at Maricopa, because there's so much repetitive work. And most of our assistants or our staff that assist, they don't have the skills or the knowledge to be able to do that. But I think it would save our company a lot of time. Right, information system. It's a collection of pieces working to achieve a common goal. And information system includes, so this is everything we've talked about so far, right? There's data, it's data input, output. There's people that are involved in order to make all that happen. There's procedures in place, hardware and software. And then this is one process for developing a life cycle. And this is what they call the waterfall method. I don't know if they have this. I don't think they have that in the slide. No. But it's where the problem's identified. So this is a step 1, step 2, step 3. You go from the beginning and you go till the end. And there's a downside to this one, because the whole idea is you go from beginning to end without any testing or true testing by the consumer or input from the consumer. So a lot of times you'll meet with the customer, you'll find out what the problem is, you'll identify that, you'll analyze it, talk to them, and then you start designing. Well, through the design and development and testing phase, that's the consumer's kind of closed out of it, really, because they're trying to produce a product so that you can deliver the product to the customer. And I'm going to share with you in the next couple slides a different approach, but this is one approach. It's one that's been used for years and years. So you could get to testing. And the problem with this process is when you get to testing, there might be something the customer picks up on really quick that was way back. Either it can't be programmed in and fixed, or you have to kind of start everything all over, right? And if you spent 6 months on a project, you don't want to have to go back to month 2 to fix something that's then you're going to have to repeat. So it's not always the best method, but it is one of the it is one of the processes that some people use. All right, so the other process is what they call Agile. And you've probably heard this, if you're in the tech world, you've heard a little bit about this. But the Agile sprint planning, the way this works is the work is planned for 2 weeks. And you define the purpose, you meet with the customer, you get the information, and you determine what the tasks are, what the work's going to be. And in 2 weeks, you share that with the customer. So whatever's been developed or whatever's been showcased, the programmers will share that with the team. And typically, it could happen one of 2 ways. Sometimes the consumer is actually at that meeting to see the progress, what's happening, what are the trouble spots, how does it look, and they can give input. If they're not actually with the team, the programming team, then someone from the programming team would meet individually with the consumer and share out that information. So then I'm going to show you, and let me exit out of this so I can copy it and put it in chat for you. All right, if you want, click on this and pull it up. I'll pull it up on my screen. See, it's not one to, dang it. All right, let me do it again. I can't use a keyboard shortcut. It doesn't like it for some reason. That's not letting me do that either. Let me see. It'll let me cut it. Let's see if it'll paste from that. Yay. Okay, so pull this. So this is Trello. This is a really cool tool. And it comes in handy if you are a planner, if you like to plan or you like task lists. This is a wonderful, wonderful tool. It does a lot more. You can do monitoring of projects, calendars, events. I don't know. There's all kinds of things that you can do with this. But this is one Agile sprint planning board. And it'll give you a little bit of idea of what this 2-week sprint looks like when it comes to Agile planning. And I use this in my work when I'm working with a team. We do it because everybody can be on the same page. You can share resources, information, you know exactly who's been assigned what, where you're at. So anyone that manages a team like project management, this is a great tool for that. And then I know my husband used something similar. They don't use Trello because they have the better, more expensive tools at Intel, but it's very similar. And what you have, so backlog are items that you need to work on, but you're not able to work on right now. So it's not planned into the sprint, but if someone gets done, they can pick it up and start working on it. Now the sprint backlog, this is stuff that the 2-week sprint is currently working on and they need to get to, but maybe they're waiting, they're waiting for a response, they're waiting for a part, whatever it might be, waiting for time to do it. In progress is anything that you're currently working on. So that's actually who. There's color coding, there's all kinds of things you can do. Let's see what this one, actually this one's kind of neat. So the cool thing with Trello is you've got the information, you've got who's working on it. There's different labels you can put in place. You can share the action out. You've got the description. Then you can put in all the resources and links. You can attach files. You can put in links. You can put in photos. You can put in comments. So there's a lot of different things that you can share. This one, you can put in a task list. So let's see where the task, checklist. And then you can check off what's been done, what needs to be done. So in progress. And then when things get completed, they get moved over. So with these fields, you can actually, I don't have edit. Yeah, okay. I'm just viewing this one. I don't have edit rights, but these are considered cards. Each task is considered a card. And when it gets finished, you just take it and drag it over into the complete column. And then this shows you, because it was a 2-week sprint. So this shows what was completed in week 1, week 2. Now, do any of you manage employees where you have to do project management? Does anybody do that? If by some chance you manage employees that might be low performing or struggling with their work, you can use something like this and do 2-week sprints. And it's real easy because you can just put, you know, what's the tasks that need to be completed? What do they need to be working on? What each person's working on, and then what gets completed. The other thing, if you've noticed, I'm not sure how they're doing it here, but where there's points, you can actually assign task points. And the way we do it on our team, if a task is going to take less than 1 day, it gets a point of 1. If the task is going to take 2 days, 2 to 3 days, well, 2 days, it gets a point of 2. And then if it's going to take longer than 2 days, if it's going to take 3 to 5 days, it gets a score of 3. And what this does is you get an idea of the workload that can be completed in a 2-week sprint. And with our work, based on what we do, we figured out 7 points is about what we can complete in addition to doing the other work that we do. Because my day job, we do a lot of, it's not tech support, but it's Canvas support with teachers. So we always have to be ready to take calls, have appointments. So outside of that, if we're working on projects, we can do about 7 points per person per week. That way you have an idea of what projects you can be taking on. But if you're managing employees, you have an idea of who's doing what. And when you're doing stand-ups and you're sharing out this information, employees see real quickly if they're not keeping up with the rest of the team, if they're kind of letting the team down. Okay, so that is one thing. And then let me show you, okay, let me go back into the PowerPoint. And here's just another one. This is just another scenario of what a sprint might look like. So it's the information, whoops, sorry. What's in progress, what's in hold. And this one, let me just show you this one or give you the link so you can look at it. Because for anyone interested in this, there are other tools out there like this. All right, let's see if the copy paste worked. Yes, I think it worked. Is that the same one? No. So this is the exact same process. It's the Agile sprint, 2-week sprint, but this one goes into a lot more detail. You can see where they've taken advantage of putting in graphs and images, but you've got what's been done. I'm not sure what done. I don't know if done may be, I don't know how they're using done here, but you got what's in the current sprint, what needs to be completed, what's actually in progress, what's on hold because they're waiting on whatever information, data, people, what's coming up next, questions that are coming up as they're working, whether that's by the customer or the programmers, marketing ideas, junk drawer. Junk drawer is probably what you think as far as your junk drawer at home. Stuff that you might use, but you don't know, you don't want to throw it away. Okay, so there's all these other things that you can also put in place that helps the team communicate with each other. So check that tool out if you're interested in it. There's all different ways you could use that tool. All right, any questions about the Trello or about the Agile? So with the Agile, the one thing I didn't finish, I guess we can discuss it right now. With Agile, the one thing that you do is with the sprints, every 2 weeks, there's testing and feedback into the program. So if you remember with the waterfall method, it's like you start, you program the whole entire program, and then at the end, you test it, which that can cause problems because you could test and find something that's going to be a lot of work to fix. Where if you're doing the 2-week sprint cycle, there's constantly feedback. There's a constant feedback loop. There's development, testing, feedback. And it's just a 2-week cycle until the project gets done. You can do that with any type of project management. So it doesn't just apply to software programming. It can be for, like I said, we use it in our work for CTL work, teaching and learning. So it's a very handy process. Okay, when we look at the program development life cycle, so programming translates into a task, or translates a task into commands that a computer uses to perform the task. And this is just step 1's describing the problem. You know, what's the problem statement? What are we trying to solve? You do the algorithm development, which is making a plan, and you guys are going to do this. Okay, so get ready, pay attention. And then coding, you actually code it, you debug it. So you look for errors, problems, fix it, and then testing and documentation. Once again, the testing and documentation is important because it's likely going to get handed off to somebody else, or you will eventually, as the programmer, retire or move on to another job. And whoever comes in needs to know what the program's doing, how to fix it, or the different stages. So, okay, so program development lifecycle, which they put an acronym on it as PDLC. It's just the stages that a project goes through from development to deployment. The problem statement's a clear description of what the tasks are that need to be performed, and understands the goals of programming. So a programmer, like a consumer, may know what the problem is, as far as the problem statement, but they don't really understand the goals of the programming and how that's going to be accomplished. Interact with user, data is raw input, information is the result. So this is one thing when you hear of information technology, data is data going in, right? It's just numbers, text, whatever that might be. Information is the result that comes out. So once the computer or the program does whatever it does, the result that gets outputted is information. And then the method is the process of converting inputs into proper outputs. All right. And then the error handling, what a program does when an error happens, the testing plan, list specific input numbers expected to be entered by users, list output values that a program will return for those input values. So there's ways with programming that you can tell it needs the data that needs to be inputted needs to be inputted into this format. If it's not in this format, reject it, right? And then let's see, the list output values that a program would return for those input values. Yeah. So it's kind of the same thing. You want to make sure that the right data is coming in and the right data is going out. That's kind of the gist of that. Okay, algorithm. So you guys are going to be creating an algorithm here in a couple of slides. We'll put you all in probably 2 or 3 groups, probably 2 groups. And you're going to be figuring out the flow. I call them flow charts. I guess they're kind of flow charts for an activity. Okay, so algorithm, it's a set of steps that describe what a program must do to complete its task. So it's really the mapping out of a program. So you have the problem, you have the task. Now you got to figure out, how do you put this into computer code so it can actually be programmed? So the algorithms are represented through flowcharts. So it provides a visual representation of what that flow looks like, the patterns look like. And pseudocode is a text-based approach to documenting an algorithm. So that's just another way. I'm visual. It's like, yeah, anyways, just different ways you can write that out. So algorithm, I didn't even know this existed. So this is an algorithm software engineer. I figured it was just part of being a software engineer or a programmer, but apparently there are actually specialists that do algorithm software engineer. My husband is one of these people that geeks out on algorithms. He completely loves it. He has spent hours and hours and hours developing algorithms, making algorithms faster for programming, all kinds of stuff. I could probably get into it. I mean, it's not in my day job, so I don't, but, and there is a book, I forget the exact name of it. Somebody wants to Google it and paste it, Google Amazon, but it's something about algorithms in our everyday lives. So if you really want to fully understand algorithms, and we're going to have an example coming up here, but there are algorithms, like everything around you can be put into an algorithm. So you can look at that. But salary for that's 109,000 with a high salary of 157, or maybe entry level at 46. So it's, you know, if it's something you enjoy, it gets you excited, there's a decent salary to be made. So with flowcharts, when you do algorithms to actually start mapping out what a program is going to look like, or the task in a program, these are symbols. And I've put this into our document, so you don't have to, I mean, if you want to jot it down, you could, but I'm going to have it in the Google slide that you're doing. So the diamond is where a decision needs to be made, like a yes, no decision. So the program's going to ask a person for input, or, you know, somehow or another, the user is going to say yes or no. Yes means you're going one way, no means you're going a different way. All right, and then a rectangle is used for a series of the steps. So step one, this happened. Step two, this is next, this is next, this is next. Input, output, data will be read, so that's input. And a lot of times that's a user putting it in, but it could just be live data that's being read from a camera monitor or something like that. And then output is, it's printed out. And when they say printed out here, they don't necessarily mean printed on paper. It could just be printed out to the screen, or printed out to, you know, some type of device where that information is
like
viewed.
a
Or
good example, would it be like a graphics card? The motherboard inputs data into the graphics card, and the graphics card outputs the video.
Yep, definitely, especially when you're programming. Yeah, yes, good example. Thank you. All right, and then you have an oval, and this is to terminate the program. You know, the program is finished running, or, you know, maybe it reached a point where it doesn't have the information it needs to continue. Either way, it's terminated out. And then the arrows are used for direction of flow. Okay, here's just an example of what an algorithm for a task would look like. So at the beginning, you ask for the number of hours worked. It reads the number of hours worked. And then there's a decision point. A decision must be made. Is the number of hours worked less, greater than, or equal to 8? And no, wait a second, less than or equal to 8. If the answer is yes, it's going to go one way. If it's no, it's going to go in the other direction. Right. And then you see that depending upon which way it goes, there's a decision made. And the decision here is, are they just being paid? It looks like, are they being paid minimum wage? Not current minimum wage, we'll just say minimum wage. Or are they being paid overtime, minimum wage plus overtime? All right, so that's a simple example. All right, get ready, because you guys are gonna.
So are the diamonds, even though they're yes, no, would they also be in a sense a true false?
Yes, it could be anything where a decision has to be made.
Okay, because I've been doing a lot of Lua coding, and this seems a lot similar to that.
Yeah, yeah, a true false, definitely. Yes. Yes. I'm trying to think. I don't know what all the other, I don't program a lot. My, really? Is my audio? Here, let me try to unplug my headphone or worse. Sorry, somebody said my audio is going in and out. It's unstable. Is that better? Is audio better? Or can you not hear me at all now? All right, hang on, I'm checking. Oh, let's see. Mac Pro speakers. Mac. All right, is the audio better now? Yes, it's better. Okay. It may be my headphones. I'm actually hardwired. I'm connected to the network by cable and not wireless, so it should not be the connection. It may just be my headphones are getting old. Okay. So what we're gonna do, let me get back. All right, so what you're gonna do, we're gonna put you in a group and you're gonna work on a pizza ordering algorithm. And here's what we know. So as far as the problem or the task of what we're trying to map out into a flow chart is that with the algorithm, and you may want to jot some notes down here for this. I can't remember if I put it in the PowerPoint or the Google slide or not. So this is a algorithm to determine how much pizza to order for the people that are showing up to your party or to dinner. So you want to figure on one large pizza, which is 16 inches, for every n plus 1 divided by 4 people rounding up. So n plus 1 means for each person, so n is the number of people. So you figure out, okay, I got 3 people coming. Go ahead and add on 1, divide by 4. And then if you want, you can stick with that. Or if you want to, there's another medium pizza. If you're going with medium pizzas and only 12 inches. But if you want to keep it simple, just go with large pizzas. So if you want, jot that down on a sheet of paper in front of you. Thank you, Chase. Chase typed it out for us there. So one large, 16 inches for every, so N is for the number of people. And we have more information coming, so don't. So with the algorithm, this is kind of how the way it would work out. 1 to 3 people, you'd want to order 1 large pizza. 4 to 7 people, you'd want 2 large pizzas. And then you can go on down through the list. So that's how the algorithm works out as far as the result. What needs to be outputted to the user, or the information that needs to come out of the program, is we need to know how many pizzas to order based on the number of people coming. Now there is one for medium, and you don't have to remember this because you're better off to just stick with they put in the medium because if you they put in mediums in case you had kids. Okay, they first figured it with larges, assuming everybody were adults and they were going to eat a lot. But then if you have kids, they tend not to eat as much, so they gave a different option there. All right, and then the algorithm states if you want there to be leftover pizza, just add another person. Okay, just add a couple more people, 1 or 2 people, to make sure there's going to be leftover pizza. So I guess that depends on you if you want leftover pizza after the party's over. Okay, so this is this gets into more about what type of pizzas to order. and don't worry if you're confused. We'll work through this. Uh, they talked about an ANSI standard pizza, which I didn't know anything about. And you know what? I don't think I put the link in there for you because the one link's broken. But what this came down to, there were hackers that used to hack into a system, and their favorite pizza or most common pizza order was pepperoni and mushrooms. So if you want to Google that, you can Google that and get a little bit more information about it. But these are kind of the pizzas that could be ordered. Pizza 2 is a veggie with green peppers and mushrooms. Pizza 3, sausage only. It says this isn't the experimental pizza. Replace this with some funky pizza that has up to 2 toppings, but no onions or olives. And let me see. Okay. I wanted to share. Let me see if I got the link in here. I didn't put the link in for ordering the pizza. All right, I will find that link for you. In the meantime, while I'm finding the link, we're going to go ahead and open up this document. And the document's going to help you. So don't panic at this point if you're completely confused. Because the link is going to help you. Okay, so you can open up this Google Doc or Google Slides. And while you're doing that, let me see if I can find this algorithm. Actually, you know what? I might have bookmarked it. I should have bookmarked it. Maybe not. That's the wrong one. All right, let me see if I can find this one. Okay, it looks like everyone's getting into the document. All right, now I'm putting in the link for the actual pizza algorithm explanation. So you're gonna have two links to work with. So this is the pizza algorithm. How many pizzas do I need to order to feed however many adults are coming? So you can refer to that as you're working in your groups. That might help to go back to that. Okay, so what I did in the Google slide here, I already put in the symbols that you need to do the flow chart. So you can just copy paste. I put it all on the one slide as a reminder of what they do or what they're used for. So you can just go in and copy it from the one slide and then put it onto your next slide. And I did that for each group so everybody had their own information. Now, what you're going to do is look at that information for ordering a pizza and try to map out a flow chart of what that would look like in a flow chart. I know we've got some people in the class that are doing computers and technology programming, cybersecurity. So hopefully I'll get you split up enough to where they can be of a lot of help to help you kind of work through it. Otherwise, you just start with what is the task? What are we doing? And then start at the top. Like what comes first? You know, obviously you need to know how many people are coming to the party, right? So you can start with that. And then you have the steps of once you know how many people are coming, you're adding one and dividing by 4. And then it's rounding up to the next pizza. And then you want an output of how many pizzas. So it should be fairly simple. It's going to seem hard if you're not used to doing this, but hang in there and I'll hop in and out of groups too and help. So are there any questions before I throw you into groups for you to kind of see if you can figure this out? No questions? All right, let me get you into groups and just work together. Like I said, I'll hop in and out and help also. All right, let me figure out where I'm at. I got too many windows open. All right, breakout rooms. All right, I'm just gonna put you in 2 and it will be random again.
That doesn't work.
All right, do you guys have any algorithm experts or brave people in this group?
Apparently not, because it's asking me to install.
Oh. I'm like, if you guys had an expert, I was gonna hop into group 1 and see how they were doing. Make sure they weren't
I don't
panicking.
think so. I kind of joined class a little late, so I'm a little lost.
Okay. So we're just looking at flow charts and how they're used to kind of plan out programming. So before you start programming, you plan out what it's going to look like or what steps need to be taken. But basically, what actually needs to be programmed. So flow charts are a way of taking that problem, the task, and then start mapping it out as far as what actually needs to be programmed. So with this activity, we're just taking an algorithm to order pizza. And what would that look like when you go through the flow chart to order pizza? And if you're not quite sure, so with the algorithm, the whole purpose is to take layman's term and put it into language that a programmer can understand and how to program it. So if anything, just start off with layman's term. You know, don't even worry about the symbols, just kind of put what are the steps you would need in order to do this algorithm. So that's one way to approach it. And are you guys working off group 2 or group 1 slide?
We're on group 2. I don't know if
2 slide.
Yeah.
2 slide. Okay, because I see someone's already putting some stuff in here.
Yeah.
Good. Oh, that's perfect.
Things.
Yeah, that's perfect.
And we have to program for the options of pizza too, as well, right?
If you can get to that point.
Okay.
No pressure that you have to do it, no, but if you're feeling pretty confident, yes, go for that. That'd be awesome. All right. I think you guys are on the right tracks. I'm gonna check in with group 1 and see how they're doing. I'll be back. All right, do you guys have an algorithm expert? No.
What exactly are we trying to solve for? Like, is it just how many pizzas we need to make, or like what kind of pizza everyone wants, or is it like a combination of the two?
It's technically a combination. However, if you're not comfortable doing the combination, just go for how many pizzas do we need?
Okay. And then how is it, if we go for the what kind of pizza, is that just like what everyone is okay with? Is like what everyone will be fine with on the pizza, or is what everyone wants?
So if you look at, I'm trying to think, if you look at the problem, the link that I shared, it's at the top of the first slide. Oh, somebody deleted it. No.
What is N? What is N?
N is the number of people. So N is always used in research. Anytime you look at research projects, N stands for number of participants, number of, number of people in the research. So this would be number of people coming to your party.
Would it be part of how many pizza to get?
Yes.
Okay.
All right, let me see. I know some people will do this and they'll be like, there is no way I want to program. And then other people like the challenge, right? And it's like, ooh, this would be fun. I'm kind of in the middle. Some days it's fun, other days, no, I don't feel like doing it.
Depends on the problem you have.
Exactly. You got it. Ordering pizza, that would be fun. Let's see.
Let's see, so it's
So the one thing this person put into this pizza algorithm, he put them as assumptions. And being to parties, if you think about parties you go to with pizza, he's assuming that any pizza that has over 2 toppings that pizza will be left over. And then any pizza that has onions or olives on it will likely be left over also. So when you're ordering pizzas, especially if you're going to be the person eating the leftovers, that helps influence what pizzas you're actually going to order. You know, when you get to the kinds of pizza.
Okay, so what I put in the like group 1 slide part, is that like what you're looking for that box?
Let's see. Go to group 2 slide. So if you go to slide 5, they're actually on the right track. And what I told them to get started, put it in layman's terms. So don't even worry about the images or graphics. And that's why they started with those 2 square boxes about how many people. So the first step of the program is we need to know how many people are coming. And then I told them then to go in and look at the actual, what do you call it? The graphic images used to lay out the program. So you're on the right track as far, you know, we're going to do 1 large pizza for every, I'm looking at what you wrote. Okay, you put n equals 6 people. So n equals 6 people would be one of your steps.
I'm like on my phone, so it's kind of hard to like move the stuff around.
Yes, you're right, it would be. Was there someone that's on desktop that can move it around? Like you can just give input. I know we have some people that don't like to talk so much, but they could help move.
So what is it trying to change again? Because I'm on a desktop, so I can change it.
Who was it?
We just need to say somewhere that n equals 6.
Yeah, put n equals 6 in its own box, because that's going to be that will not be printed out, so that would be a process step. Or it could be input.
That would be an input if we have 6 people versus like 7 or 8.
Yeah. Because the process step is you ask how many people, right? And then the input could be your n equals 6.
So wouldn't the process be the equation? So like input is 6, and then the equation uses 6 as the process to calculate?
That would be a process too, yes. Yes, you are correct.
Okay. Let's see. Process, let's see. So n equals people. And that's just process step. And then that's
Yep. You guys are on the right track. You're getting it.
C, Control C, V. Okay. Equals. So just that becomes.
So some of the rest of you in the group that are not talking or doing anything right this second, you could actually you could take the green triangle and actually type in the choices of pizza. So each green triangle would be one of the different pizza options. So that's one way the rest of the group can help out. There you go. Got cheese, excellent.
I had a question about that. Would that be the yes and no for the options? Like if we wanted a certain topic, we would say yes, and then the ones that we didn't want would be no, and
Correct.
then separate them.
Correct.
Mhm.
Yes,
Okay.
you got it.
So,
And we won't get this completely finished, but I wanted to get you thinking, looking at how all this works. Good. Excellent. You guys are getting it. Yay. All right, I'm going to check on group 2. It looks like they might be stuck.
What type? So I have to know how many people want each type of pizza, and then do the math to figure out how many of each size pizza to get.
Okay, then yeah, that makes more sense then.
So,
If you want, you don't have to worry about what the people coming to the party want for this exercise. I would just say, as far as the person ordering, how would they input what they wanted to order? So let's assume that the host has already figured out what everybody wanted, and then they're just going to place the order. Does that help a little bit? Or does that make it more confusing?
In some ways, it's which came first, the chicken or the egg.
Yes. Both. They both came at the same time.
Yeah.
And
Let's see.
if you want, take a peek at what group 1's doing. Because they may be doing something a little different, or they may be doing something, they're typing upside down. Okay, there they got it.
Let's see.
Like, that group might be having happy hour.
Let's see if we put the choices here.
Yeah, I would just keep it as these are the type of pizzas we're going to order. I wouldn't worry about programming in, let's poll everybody and let everybody have input.
Uh-huh.
I wouldn't make it that complicated. Not for what we're doing. I remember, if you're good at this, you can make $109,000 a year as a salary, or maybe 158. Especially if you enjoy it.
And that's wow. Oh. N+1, what is that formula?
Divide by 4.
Divided by 4. We'll go with large pizzas.
I'm I'm assuming that means 4 pizza or 4 people per pizza is what I'm thinking.
That's what I was thinking too, that the 4 represented 4 people.
Yeah. So, you know, if you have friends that are big eaters, you know, you might want to change, you could change that number, right?
Oh, what was that one I heard the other night? The guy that wanted his pizza cut in 6 pieces because he didn't think he could eat 8.
All right, you're on the right track because first thing you need to know is how many people, and then you have to do a calculation off of that number, and you got that formula in there for the calculation. You're getting it. We must have a programmer in the first group. They said they weren't, but maybe somebody should be if they're not.
Well, I'm trying to look at this like in Lua standards because I've been learning Lua scripting, so it's kind of like that. It's the
Okay.
same way, drawing a statement, pulling a value and then inputting it.
Yeah, exactly. I know I'm not an expert at programming. I just do basic HTML. I did do Java, not JavaScript, but Java. But it's like, I just, you know, I haven't done a lot of it. I've been playing around with Alexa skills. So I'm starting to learn a little bit more about JS nodes and what's the other one? Yeah. If I need serious program, I just go to my husband. Help me. I'm like, I know enough to make a mess, but I don't know enough to fix it. All right, so while you're working on that, the rest of the group, so let's see, who's not, Chase, Nick, and Noah, Ryan. What are you guys thinking as far as the choices for pizza? The pizza, like, what do you think that would look like? So if you would go to what type of pizza and veggie. So we're going to make a decision. It's either a yes or a no on the veggie pizza. What do you think that looks like with the arrows? If they say yes, what should happen next if they say yes to veggie pizza?
I'm looking at it because I'm trying to think on how to structure that.
Yeah, because that's what I was going to say. You guys could be working on that while, who's working on, is it David that's working on this one?
Yeah, it was, and then it
Yeah.
kind of got taken over, and I'm trying to do some formula stuff on the side.
Okay.
Yeah, same. I was just moving stuff around trying to establish a tree.
Okay. So yeah, so with the veggie pizza, for those of you, the others in the group, so that you don't feel left out, you could be looking at each pizza is going to have a yes or no decision. Yes, I'm ordering that type of pizza, or no, I'm not ordering that type of pizza. So once you say yes or no, how do you go to the next pizza to have the same option? Yes or no. And then you, when you say yes, I'm going to order it, where's the decision of how many of that pizza do I want? So that's one way to think through that. And obviously, if you've got, what do you have, 5 different decisions? So whatever you determine, you could determine it for one type of pizza, you know, map it out, yes, no, and what happens when you say yes, what happens when you say no. That's going to apply for each type of pizza. Okay, so what type, I see someone working with it. What type of pizza? You're on the right track with the arrow because you're going to go down to the first one, veggie. Yep. And then one side of that, yeah, it's going to be a yes, and the other side is going to be a no. Yep, you guys are getting it. You can see where this would take a little bit of practice, but you could also see once you've done it a few times, it would become a lot easier.
I found it easier if I start off with a type of pizza.
Mhm.
You know, decision tree, type of pizza, how many people want that kind of pizza, plug it into that formula, round it up to the next whole number, and that's how many large pizzas you need to order of each type.
That's a different approach. That it could definitely work. Yes. Yeah, programming, like other things, there's not always one right answer. There's multiple ways it can be done.
Mm-hmm.
If you just think about Microsoft programs where you can do something 3 or 4 different ways, I assume it takes different programming for each way. I don't know. All right, take a few more minutes and just figure out as much as you can, because we can also just talk through it, even if you can't get it all mapped out. You can kind of just share the thought process.
Mhm.
And then, yeah, because group 1, I think's about finished. They're still working, but yeah, take about 2 or 3 more minutes and just do what you can, and then we'll bring it back.
All right.
All right, is everybody back? I think everybody's back. All right, so let's go with group 1. And I have it on the screen. Does anybody in group 1 want to share what you guys were thinking or what you were doing? Group 1, anybody?
I'll explain.
Okay.
So basically, to start, it's not very organized, but
That's
the
okay.
number of people that are just coming to the party at the very top left, and then basically just deciding if you want just all large pizzas or medium pizzas, and then using the appropriate formula for each. And then at that is like the determination of just the number of pizza, like that small program of just determining is then done, is just deciding the type now. And then the type of pizzas, it's like a little loop basically, where it's just like each one is if you want or not. So like, do you want to get a cheese, get a vegetable, get a pepperoni? And then at the end, it goes down to see, do we have reached the number of pizzas to order? Like, have we chosen enough pizzas where once we've chosen them, these are how many we're able to get? And then if it isn't, it'll just go around again. So if you want to get 2 cheese or whatever, if not, you eat the pizza. And then the third program to say then goes with the number of pizzas ordered and then how much you actually needed, and then ordered minus needed, and then you get the actual leftovers. So even if the program told you only order 6 pizzas, you said, I'm ordering 9. This is how you figure out how many of the leftovers you should have supposedly.
Okay. All right, good job. Good job. So did you guys find it easy, hard? What'd you think?
It's not very organized, which is probably the hardest part about it. So like I see the other group there's way more organized, which makes it much simpler to read.
Yeah, if you were gonna be the programmer, you'd be like, could you make this a little bit neater? No, that's okay. That's okay, because you guys, you only had a little brief period of time and it's kind of your first time working through it. So it's okay that it's not organized, because it's messy trying to figure out, all right, what goes here, what's a decision, what's a process. So there's not a problem with that. All right, nice job. Nice job. Okay, group 2. All right, you guys, because you started off kind of like group 1 where you weren't quite sure, and then one of you I forget who it was, came up with a different approach and a different idea that seemed to work better. So you want to share what you guys did?
David was the one that came up with the different approach, but I can explain some of it, and then
Okay.
I can leave the rest of it up to him.
Okay, sounds perfect.
So on the first the slide above it, it's got it says pizza 1 equals, and then it tells you what all the toppings are, or the types of pizzas that you get when you select that option. And then the input values, grab in, you select your pizza. On our slide, you select the pizza types, and then it will, then you input your value of the number of people for that type of pizza you want, and then the algorithm will run and round up to the wholest number, and then it outputs the numbers of that type of pizza that you based on the amount of people that you've ordered or you've put in.
Perfect. So David, you want to add to it?
Not much. I think I missed the last part of, 1 through pizzas 1 through 7 and kind of repeating the original style. So maybe I just went off on a tangent with this, but
No, that's
it
okay.
made sense.
Yeah, that's okay. So you can see the difference with this group was they were interested in the people coming to the party, exactly what each person wanted. Me as the party host, I would be like, okay, I got 10 people. I'm getting 2 cheese, 1 pepperoni. My mom likes this particular type of pizza, so I'll get this one pizza that we used to call it trash pizza. I don't know what you guys call it. Trash pizza, where it's like everything. So we'd order one of those, and then otherwise a Supreme, yeah, Supreme. I come from the mountains of West Virginia, so it was called a trash pizza. Anyways, so just a different approach, because this one kind of incorporated in, okay, we asked everybody what they wanted, and we want to make sure that the 3 people that want cheese are actually going to get cheese, and the 2 people that wanted whatever pizza number 1 or pizza number 5 is, they get it. So I like that. I like how you guys did it differently. So right there, you can see where it's the same algorithm and 2 different approaches. And I know the one group we were talking about where there's multiple correct answers, there's not any one right answer. Sometimes it might also have to do with the programming language that you're working in as far as what results you would get. So nice job, nice job. So a couple of you have potential there. If you're not already considering programming or doing programming, I think you have some talent and you might want to explore that. Okay, so let's get back into the PowerPoint. And this is just looking at the top-down design where the problem's broken into a series of high-level tasks. So it's what you guys just did, and it's using the algorithm of payment for hours worked. So this is just a visual of how that can be broken down and exactly what you guys just did. So object-oriented analysis, programmers identify model classes to solve a problem. The point behind the classes is it's reusable, there's inheritance, there's base classes, derived classes. So this, without doing it, to me, it's hard to understand. So if you're not familiar with programming, this is like learning another language. It just doesn't make sense until you've done it. They've put in a little visual there for you to try to help, but there would be a class. So the class would be an employee class. And in the employee class, that information is going to include name, address, social security, pay grade, pay. So basically all of your employee information. And then there's methods and actions that can be taken, and it gets down into specific objects, which is broken down by specific employee. And it just gives you an example there for John Doe, Jane Doe, what that information looks like. So like I said, it's a little, object-oriented programming is one of the first languages I learned. And I'm trying to remember, I guess it was college when I learned that. Because in high school, I learned base 10, which is a very, very old language. I don't think anyone really uses it anymore. But the object-oriented, you can do a lot more with. I say that because I didn't do a lot with base 10. To me, object-oriented was easier for me once I learned what it all meant and how to do it. There are some, if you're ever interested in those languages, just Google them. There's plenty of like tutorials and YouTube videos, things to kind of give you an idea of what you want to start learning or what would be easier. Yeah. Okay, so there is a job here, or jobs in Phoenix, Arizona, that are considered algorithm engineer. and algorithm engineers make about 116,000 with a high of 158,000. Starting salary of 63. So if you liked the activity that we did today, you might want to explore that. There's also an algorithm developer, which I think is probably a lot like what we just did. It's actually taking it and developing out 123,000. So that one pays a little bit more, up to 242,000. So maybe all of us need to check that one out, right? Maybe the whole class could get those jobs and we'd be doing pretty well. Okay. So life cycle of a program, coding. So this is just going through kind of the steps and what this looks like. So you're translating an algorithm into CPU instructions. So if you remember way back in the beginning chapters, we talked about, the boot up of the computer and instructions sent to the CPU to tell the CPU what to do, how to get the computer started, how to run programs, how to get devices and everything talking to each other. Programmers move from algorithm to code. So they identify key pieces of information, identify the flow of each step, converting the algorithm into specific programming language. So you guys try to do the flow chart, right? The next step from that flow chart would now actually put that into programming language. We didn't have enough time to do that. Not tonight anyways. Okay, programming language is a code for instructions the CPU can perform. If you remember, we talked about the ones and zeros that the computer understands, and then how everything, when you type a letter on the keyboard, that it doesn't tell the CPU type a J, it sends the instructions to the CPU to tell the computer how to type a J. So that's what you're looking at with a programming language. It's a language of talking to the hardware in the computer to actually make the computer do what you want it to do. Languages use special words and strict rules. Each language is different. So Seema, the one I had the picture of at the beginning of this PowerPoint, she always says, and a lot of other people say too, if you learn one language, you can typically pick up other languages. So even though they all have their own special words and rules, you can still pick up on, you can learn it. So it allows control of CPU without knowing hardware details, and there's 5 generations of languages. So portability, sorry, couldn't get the word out. So this is the ability to move one solution from one type of a computer to another. We've talked about gaming systems before. If you have an older game, will it play on a new system, or will the new games, play back on an older system? It's the same thing with computer programs. We run into that all the time. It's like, if it runs on this version or this device, is it going to run on future devices? So you want to take that into consideration when you're looking at languages. Variables are the input and output a program manipulates. See, variable declaration. Okay, tell the system to allocate space and RAM. And then comments are added to explain the purpose of a section of code. So there is a way when you're programming to actually put comments into the coding. And there's a special symbol that you use so that the program knows it's not code that it's to execute. It's just code there as a comment for other programmers to understand what the program is doing. I say other programmers, even the main programmer, because once you program and you come back to it later, it helps to have comments in there so you understand what's going on. Okay, and then there's the process to convert code into machine language. That's so the CPU or the computer in general can understand it. And there's a compiler that understands the syntax of programming language and structure of CPU. So it reads a source code, creates an executable program. And some languages use an interpreter, so it translates it into an immediate form. The kind of the point of the interpreter is that the finished program runs faster. It runs faster with an interpreter. But Yeah, it's like each line as it's read is executed. So the interpreter just helps to speed it up. All right, IDE helps programmers write and test their programs. So I'm trying to remember IDE, integrated development environment. So it's the development, a development environment where it can, you put the code in, it helps you to kind of debug test programs and see what's working, what's not working, what needs fixed. I don't know if there's anything else to say about that or not. Yeah, it helps us speed up the writing and testing of the programs. That's kind of the gist of it. All right, debugging. This is when you're trying to find errors. A lot of times when you see programs put out there in beta, that's part of the testing process to see what needs debug, or I guess to help to identify debugging too, like where are there errors, what part of the program's not working, and then being able to go back in and correct those errors. Debugging used to be done a lot manually by people. You probably heard a long time ago with games, like people got paid to play games in order to find out where all the bugs were and what the problems were. But now there's programs. You can just set up and have programs that run and check for those things. So you don't necessarily need people. But a lot of times with beta, that's what they're doing. They're using people to help debug the program before they release it and charge a fee for the program. All right, testing plan helps programmers know program has solved the problem. Yeah, so basically putting a testing plan in place, programs, whatever you need in order to make sure that the program is running correctly. Okay, logical errors, program runs but executes incorrectly. You probably see this often. And then runtime errors, dividing by zeros. Just trying to think if there's anything else to say on that. It's just different, yeah, different programs or different problems with programs. So there is a job as a debug engineer. Debug engineers, they do tend to basically be programmers these days, because you've got to write code in order to debug, or you have programs. There might be programs. And then once you debug, then you either have to get the information to someone else so the program can be fixed, or you may be responsible for fixing the program. But this one's 78,000 up to 118,000. So still not bad. It's probably a pretty good, well, it's probably not exactly entry level, but could be entry level, depending upon the level of debugging that's required. All right, so testing and documentation, there's different ways or different steps of testing. There's internal testing that would probably be like internal testing by the programming team. External testing might be by the customer, might be with a different group within the company. Solving problems after beta testing. So as people, it gets put out in beta and you've got a bunch of people testing, who's actually taken in all of the problems and then overseeing that getting fixed, finishing the project, releasing it to the manufacturers, documentation, and then general availability. So once the product is available to the public and it can be purchased, who's overseeing it and who's going to continue to do all of those version 1.1, version 1.3, version, like who keeps all that going and what's the process. All right, so now we don't have too much left to do here. Different programming languages. And there's a need because it all depends on what is it that you're trying to accomplish, what devices are being used. Examine job postings for programmers. If you go to that ZipRecruiter or multiple the job posting sites, you can see all the different type of languages. There's many, there's a little graph here that shows you, there's JavaScript, Java, Objective-C, there's C++, C#, Python, PHP, it just goes, and there's more and more. So this isn't even all of the languages. There's a lot of different ones. But introductory programming courses will include the design, algorithm, development, debugging techniques, and project management. Project management's huge. I know I hear my husband all the time talking about working with the project managers, and there's a lot of them at Intel, just a lot. So if you have an interest, but maybe you don't enjoy the coding, you might enjoy, because it really helps to have project managers that understand code, even though they don't necessarily want to do coding, or other aspects of the technology field too. All right, selecting the right language. So when you're looking at what language to select, things to consider: the space available, how fast does it needs to be, what resources are available based on either the customer and their needs and wants, or what the company has available that you work for. Type of target application, what's the application going to look like? You know, is it going to be on a mobile device? Is it running off a desktop? Is it cloud-based? And then some visual programming language, if you want to play around with it and get started. Scratch is a very basic one. I've had my kids doing that one, and it's very, very elementary. Anyone can pick it up and do it, but at the same time, it starts getting you used to what programming languages do and what it looks like, even though it's a drag and drop. So that's a really good one. Like I said, it's very, very basic, and you'll probably get bored with it pretty quick, but it's a good one. App Inventor, in our book, we have a lot of activities. So if you go into that My Lab and Mastering, there's a lot of activities in there. Actually, the e-text, you can see them in your e-text. There's a lot of App Inventor activities that you can do and, you know, go through and learn what it takes to develop apps for like mobile devices. Okay, so this is just an overview of some of the more common languages. Visual Basic is one that a lot of people start with. It's good for prototyping, quick development. It can be used for a wide range of applications, .NET framework, and an application programming interface. Now, C++, it executes difficult, repetitive numerical calculations. So if you're doing a lot where there's a lot of data being analyzed, that's a good one. Java and C# collect information from network computers, architectural neutral, and C# competes with Java. So a lot of those are similar. Anytime I hear somebody, they say do C# over Java, but Java, a lot of times I find that like C# and C++, bigger companies use, where Java, JavaScript, Java, you know, Visual Basic, some of those programs smaller companies will use. But even that's not always the rule. It just depends. So Objective-C and Swift, used to program applications in Mac OS, object-oriented, and Swift was introduced by Apple for iOS. I messed around a couple months ago with getting Swift, and yeah, I don't want to program for a Mac, but there's some things I'm messing with where I had to download, and so I might end up doing a little bit. All right, HTML, that's your web designs, and it's a basic formatting language for web application. It's not really considered a full language, but it is, you know, you can use it for designing web pages. Scripting languages, you've got JavaScript, PHP, and VB script. Let's see, limited to performing a set of specialized tasks. Same thing, it's not a full programming language. It's more, it's not exactly like macros, but similar, I guess. You know, it's very specific. And then you have ASP, JSP, and PHP used to build interactive web pages. So HTML is not interactive. So if you want interactive components, then you're going to use these other languages to assist with that. Ajax, XML, and JSON create web applications that update and communicate with other computers. And then mobile application development, speed the development of applications for mobile devices. Yeah. To speed it up, I guess. All right. All right, so the future of programming languages, believe it or not, there's always new programming languages being developed. As the technology changes, you get new devices. You know, you look at what's going on with SpaceX and just space exploration in general. There's going to be a lot of new languages, and it's not always easy to predict. We'll always need variety. So anytime someone says, what's the best language to learn? It really doesn't matter because there's a need, right? And if you learn one, you can a lot of times learn a different one. So don't worry too much about which one to learn. If you're kind of hesitant, figure out which one's the easiest to learn or the cheapest to learn based on your resources and what you have access to. And then otherwise, it's just kind of a personal preference. You know, what do you enjoy coding in? Okay, that is it as far as the content. Let me just go back to our week so you know what you have due this week. Are there any questions about the content we covered? It's like, I'm not an expert programmer, but I can find answers for you if you have questions that I can't answer. Let's see, we're on April 12th. If you got any questions, feel free to type them in, or you can wait. Okay, so we are week 11. So now our chapters are not correlating with our week number. Just keep that in mind. So week 11, but we're on chapter 10. You do have a quiz for chapter 10. And then the Excel simulation training. So you do not have to do the Excel 4 exam. You're just doing the Excel 4 simulation training. And that's it for this week. So not too bad. Not too bad. All right, any questions? No questions? All right, if you're not, we're finished. I was trying to get you out earlier so we didn't go as long. So hopefully that's a little bit better for everybody. I'm like you guys, I get tired of being on a computer. It's long. All right, you guys have a great night. If you have any questions, hang around.